All right, Mike Watkins, HurricaneTrack.com, HurricaneAnalytics.com with a quick Dorian update. Dorian has not moved much. The winds are down to 155 miles per hour. It's been undergoing kind of three things that are affecting its intensity. In the short term, one is it's undergone an eye wall replacement cycle, which started right before I went to bed last night and has continued, although it seems like the information that's coming in says that that process has completed, which we were kind of hoping that that might take a little longer and be a little bit more disruptive to the storm, but it is what it is. The second is it's interacting with land and has been for about 24 to 36 hours now, and the friction from land and not being water means that'll slow the storm's low-level winds down a little bit. Then the third thing is there's some upwelling going on. Upwelling, if you haven't heard, is a term that when a hurricane is sitting over water and continuously moving, it's feeding off of that water's heat and taking it up into the atmosphere and turning it into the hurricane, right? If it stays over one place for a long time and there's no replacement water source there, it's going to have to draw deeper and deeper into the ocean to pull water up that normally wouldn't get pulled up. And as you go further down in the ocean, the water's colder. So it's bringing cold water up, it's depleting the warm water from its immediate surroundings and replacing it by cooler water, which slows the convective process down some. And I'm not a bathymetry expert, but the Gulf Stream kind of runs this way through between the Straits of Florida, between Florida and the Bahamas, up and around, and then out this way. That's why our water is always so warm, especially out there. But that's a river of water that's kind of constantly flowing around in the ocean. Because the storm is sitting just north of Grand Bahama, that means the water isn't necessarily replacing the heat from the Gulf Stream as much as it would, say, if it were out over here over the main part of the Gulf Stream waters. And again, the flow is this way, but there's still warm water coming in from the Gulf Stream, and it's kind of getting blocked here by the shape of Grand Bahama. So that could also be contributing some to but the counter part to that is, as this moves out to the northwest, west-northwest over the coming days or two, it'll be back out over the open ocean and over the open water. So our probabilities for getting a direct hit down here are very low. Palm Beach is actually down to 17%. They were in the 50s at some point yesterday afternoon. Fort Lauderdale down to 4%. So now the focus is going to shift further north. And let's check that out in the wind speed probabilities. Let's see here. Still, I got to get better at this transition from winds here. No. There we go. Okay. So this is the wind speed forecast for tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, issued at 8 p.m. today. Actually, that's the initial right now. In 12 hours, it'll be here, which means that the radius of tropical storm force winds should be reaching Palm Beach and the coast here, just north of Fort Lauderdale, but any wobble to the left or west would bring tropical storm force winds to that location. That's why we have, at this point, a tropical storm watch, just in case there's some leftward movement that's not expected. Otherwise, no reason to put up, I guess, a warning at this point. As we go forward in time I just put that in motion, I'll zoom out in a second. But as we go forward in time, see more and more of the Florida coast is exposed to at least tropical storm force winds, and actually even some places here, as it kind of passes, are now going to experience the 50-knot more destructive tropical storm force winds. So that means the weather is going to get worse before it gets better. The other thing is, even though Dorian is currently sitting, about 120 miles away from the coast, it's still moving toward us a little bit, which means that the distance between us and the center is going to get smaller until it starts to move north and away from us, which means as each little band comes in, more and more energy is going to get translated from the upper levels to the surface through the rain bands, which means our weather is going to get annoyingly worse throughout the day today and tonight and continue probably tomorrow. In fact, if I just move this back a couple frames, so 24 hours from now, still, northwest Broward, right Deerfield area, tropical storm force winds are certainly a probability at this point. Then we move up another 36 hours, and we've covered pretty much from Deerfield all the way up the coast, and that's why we have hurricane warnings in place. Now notice the 64 knot hurricane force winds have stayed offshore in this forecast, but if the storm expands a little more than expected, or if it moves just to the left or to the west of the previous or of this track, then we would see that effect all throughout pretty much the entire Florida East Coast, except the very southern half or very southern part of the state. So wind probabilities only go out 72 hours, but you can see here from the 48 to 72 hour forecast. So today's Monday, so this would be Thursday morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning. Tropical storm force winds from Wilmington probably all the way around the southeast coast. The only reason it doesn't show it here is because of the jump in time. There's no 12-hour gap filled in here in between, but you can certainly interpolate what that shape would be along the coast. And again, very sensitive to minor track changes either to the right or to the left over the coming days, and that's why, again, this is still far from an over-deal in terms of forecast certainty. Models have come into better agreement. That's the graphic I tried to show a second ago. I'm going to try to show it again. There we go. Pretty much all of them now are bunched with the center off the coast. You can ignore the extrapolated motion. I meant to take that out before, but I didn't. My fault. But pretty much the envelope of possibility stays, for the most part, with the center offshore. But again, now we're talking, as you can see here, 96 hours from now, a tropical storm or a hurricane in this general area. But that doesn't mean that it can't make a little bit, any subtle change to the left of track would bring the core of the hurricane in, and pretty much any number of places along the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and even Florida northeast coast. So if you're in a hurricane warning and you're asked to evacuate, there's no time to let your guard down. This certainly is far from over. My focus over the coming updates will shift away from southeast Florida and toward northern Florida on up around to the Gulf, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, where the impacts could be felt starting later tonight and could last for a while. So that's it for now. I'll have another update later this afternoon or early this evening. Mike Watkins, Hurricane Track, and hurricaneanalytics.com.